So how do we MA?
Let us make.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Clyde Sharadi from Africa Media Australia, and I'm very happy to know that there are quite a lot of you watching this seventh edition of African Knowledge. This is a show where we get to talk about any number of things that has value for the community. We discuss topics of interest. We get people to share their stories, their opinions, their experience, their wisdom and insights that adds value to the community. It's important for us as a minority group in Australia to be able to have important conversations about things that relate to our lives in this context, as well as broadly. And this is why Africa Media Australia has created the African Knowledge Platform. So if you're watching out there and you've got something of value that you want to share with the community, this platform is all yours. Tonight, we have a special topic of discussion, which is about the and going inside the African mindset, inside the African mind. And I have four people with me to discuss this topic. They are all professionals, university educated Africans, and it's a pleasure to have them all here. I'm going to give each and every one of them the opportunity to introduce themselves. And I will start with Bertrand Abiakare. Go ahead, man.
Thank you, Clyde. My name is Bertrand from the Burundian community, live in Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Barry Mustafa.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us, Clyde. Happy to be here. My name is Mustafa. I am originally from Senegal, and yeah, so I am a member of the wide African community here in Victoria. Originally, yes, from Senegal, but I lived in Sydney for most of my stay in Australia so far. Anyway. But absolutely, like you have introduced it. It's a very important platform, very interesting topics. Looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Dr. William Abur. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Clyde. And thank you for the audience who are also listening or who are going to listen later. My name is William Abur. I'm from South Sudanese background or South Sudanese Australian.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go to the next guest, James Lojogo. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Clyde, for having us. My name is James Lojogo. I'm from the South Sudanese town of Kajukeji. I've been in Australia for about 12, 13 years. So thanks for having us.
Thank you. So, gentlemen, tonight's discussion is on the African mindset. But before we go there, the one thing that I've introduced lately in this show is just to try to make it a little bit as an opportunity for people to know each other more. I'm going to ask each one of you, because I think each one of you speaks at least one African language. So I'm going to ask each one to tell us how you say hi in that language. And then when we finish, we're going to tell us how you say goodbye. So we at least learn how to say hi and how we learn how to say goodbye. So we'll go back to Bertrand. What language, one African language of your choice? And tell us how you say hi.
Kirundi, of course. Kirundi is my mother tongue. And to say hi, we say Miriwe or Muraho. It depends on what time of the day it is. Kirundi,
all right, Miriwe. Okay, at least I got that. All right, cool. Barry, which language is it?
Fulani, so that's my native language, Fulani. Yeah. To say hi, you say you have two options. You can say Tanala, or you can say Ajarama.
Which language is it? Okay, Tanala. I have to write down because I want to make sure I remember that. Okay, James.
Yeah, the language I speak is Kuku, and in Kuku we say Madang Loso, which means hello to you all.
Okay, that's a bit more complicated. Say it again,
Madang Loso.
Maralosa. All right. No worries. You can excuse my not getting it 100%. That's okay. Dr. William Abur, tell us how you say hi in what language is it?
Well, I
No worries. You can excuse my not
speak a
getting it
couple of
100%.
languages, a bit of Arabic and also Dinka, but I will go with the Dinka.
Yeah.
So we say ekde chu bak or chu bak in term of ruler.
Okay. Ekede. Yes.
Yep.
All right. I'm sure by the time I do 10 of these shows, I'm going to be speaking 15 African languages, at least getting one thing right.
Yeah.
All right,
Now,
gentlemen. So,
Claude,
yeah.
before you go, I can hear echoing. Is it my computer or
Okay.
the others are also
What about
hearing that?
everybody else? Can you hear an echo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there is echo.
Okay. Let me make sure. Let me double check if it's not from my end. Just give me a sec.
Yes,
And
looks like it's better now.
It's
It's
much
better,
better.
yes. It's better
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I think it
Yep.
may have been a Bluetooth connection that was doubling that audio. Okay,
Better.
good. Thanks for letting us know. If you hear an echo again, let us know. All right, so let's go into the topic tonight. And for those who are watching, we encourage you to make comments, to ask questions. We'll put a number on the screen. You can also call actually, and make an audio comment as opposed to a text one. So we want this discussion to be as lively and as interesting as it can be. And I can see already some people logging. Someone is having two devices running. Okay, that's probably was me with a Bluetooth connection. That has been fixed. Okay, so the topic tonight is really we want to go into some analysis of the African mindset. We're all Africans, and I have first to make a few clarifications in a sense that we may be going into some sort of broad generalization. There's no typical African mindset as such because Africa is such a big place with lots of cultures, but there's a lot of things that connect us as one people, both in history as well as in many other, culture and many other things. So even though we're going to go into the broad generalization, is for the sake of just understanding some of these issues that affect to us, because it is clear that, for example, we know that Africa has quite a number of issues in terms of development. We're still, lagging a little bit. We're still quite behind. If you look at what else is happening in the world, there are issues that are sort of causing that, and everything that has to do with humans has to do with thinking, because it's through thinking that we express ourselves, that we work, that we create, we invent, and we interact with others. So we want to sort of look at what are some of the common traits that could explain why Africans think the way they think, because we know that, for example, Americans think they have a way of thinking that is typically American, and Western people have a typical way of thinking, even though it's not all the same. So you're going to excuse us for that sort of broad generalization. It's just for the sake of having this philosophical sort of discussion around this topic. But the questions that I'm going to put forward to all of us, and today we're going to be talking more specifically about the historical elements that have sort of contributed to the development of African mindset or African thinking. So I'm going to put this question to any of you, and I mean to all of you, and any one of you can start if they want to. Is what in history? What are some of the main elements that you think may have contributed to the development of African mindset, if we define that as just a typical way of that African people think?
Um,
Yeah,
does anybody want to go?
you can
No, you
go.
go ahead, Doctor. Dr. William. Go ahead.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a great question, Clyde. Thinking about African mindset generally. So there are few things that we w- we as African community or African people need to think about it. First of all, we need to think about the intellectual capacity, and it doesn't mean that we don't have intellectual people in our society. We do have intellectual people. Now, in terms of having the intellectual people, our knowledge, our talent is actually misplaced. It is completely people who are intelligent or who may be, you know, well educated, they use their talent into the political exercise, and that political arena does not really serve the community well. It is all about playing the politics. If you finish your, you know, whatever your degree in university, then you are expected to be a politician. And then we neglect the other important area in terms of development, where people need to set up the system. The system need to be set up very clearly, and then, you know, those individual or people within the society, first of all, they need to be protected so that they can use their talent within the community, so that they can, you know, design the system that the community needed, you know, to be able, for the society to be able to have a very functioning system. So most of the system, for example, are dysfunctioning, and that is why if you see, there is a lot of conflict that is going around. There's a lot of, you know, disagreement. So that is one element. For me, I see that yes, we may need some creativity. We need to think, you know, in a bigger picture, think about how we can really utilize some of our talent, some of the knowledge that we have as a, you know, as a society, and not only focusing on the political arena. So political arena is only one thing, it's one element. Yes, we need a politician, but that is not all about.
Okay.
That does not solve the problem. I think I will give opportunity to my colleagues, so that they can make comment in relation to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know,
thank you. I just wanted to come back a little bit, go a little bit back, and to see whether we can contextualize the concept of mindset.
yeah.
Why that we're talking about an African mindset as such? My question would be that, but also would be, is there an African mindset as such? Because when you're talking, and Claudio have highlighted that before, that it's a generalization, but still we will need to look at it like kind of dissect it in a way, because when we're talking about a mindset, you're talking about a lot of subcontext to that. You know, mindset doesn't come without kind of some background. Background can be social. The background can be kind of educational. The background can be so
Political.
many cultural, political, so many things that a human would have gone through. And it can be even genetic, if I want to go further than that. So you have kind of a number of factors that can develop kind of the mindset of a person. And by the way, the definition of mindset is actually can be broadened to anything that can be a way of thinking, a way of seeing the world, a way of kind of a concept of wisdom. So many things can come into the definition of mindset. So do we have an African mindset as such? If we do, or we don't, the question would be why that we're talking about African mindset in our kind of current circumstances. Is that because it's problematic? Is that we see it as a problem? Is that we see it as kind of a catalyst for something positive or something negative? I don't know. But I probably would like to say is that the countries that where we come from, the society we come from, did shape us in a way that we have gone through experiences, we have gone through kind of processes of learning and all that. And now we are in another society. We live in Australia. We live, some of us live in other societies, in other countries, where they have acquired different type of knowledge or wisdom or anything like that that have shaped their way of thinking in a particular way. You know, and then that has helped us open up on our eyes to see, oh, this is the way we used to think about this problem. And here is now we have an experience where we're living in another country. We have experienced diversity. We are different people now. We definitely have a different mindset, a different way of thinking compared to the people we have left behind. We have left in our countries of origin. We don't think the same way. Why is that? Because we have acquired more experiences. We have acquired kind of a different type of experiences. Probably I wouldn't say more, but different type of experiences in life, or based on the society or the current situation that we are in, that help us to be, that did shape us in a different way. It doesn't mean that the people we have let in our respective countries have a different way of thinking that is bad or right or whatever it is. But we are different in a way,
Absolutely.
and we are similar at the same time. Okay. So that's the way I would like to look at it and say, okay, if we have to shape up the conversation, let's see how we're gonna look at it in both aspects and see how we can use our experience here and use the experiences of people who are back there and see how we can make it positive. Or in another way of putting it, how is there we're gonna take or conceptualize what we were and what we have become to make it one.
Absolutely. That's a very good point, Barry. Before I let Bertrand or James comment on that, let me just say that obviously when we talk about mindset, we're not necessarily suggesting that it is bad, because there's always some good side. Even whether people have to change mindset, they don't have to change the whole thing. When we are into a different context, as Barry said, we are in a different country. Many of us, for example, we never realized that we were black because we lived in in our country. It's normal. When you get to Australia, you realize, hey, I'm black, and that is a difference, and that has a lot of implications. That's the same way for the mind. You don't realize that you are thinking in particular ways until you are confronted with another way of thinking, and then you start looking at both. So I just thought I would clarify that. I'll let Bertrand and James comment on the initial questions.
Well, thank you very much, Clyde. And my my understanding of the mindset of the Africans, I want to make it general. Like I've seen a lot of and heard a lot of conversation about what the perception of the African of themselves is, and I realized there is some level of learned helplessness or learned submission, that someone feels like they're not capable, they're not able to do what somebody else can. When, for example, something happens somewhere in Europe, someone says, "Oh, you see, this is what the other people can do. We can't do that." So I call that a mindset, because it's something that can easily be changed. Like what my brother was saying there, that when we got here, we realized that there's things that we thought we would never be able to do that we've been able to do here. When we go back home, we see the difference between us and the people that we left there in terms of that understanding of similarities between people, no matter where they live. So I looked at that and I think back to the history of colonization and things, and I go, when the people were subjected to slavery, for example, they had to be sold, they have to be beaten, they had to be humiliated, they had repetitive abuses that against them, against their families. So they had to depend on somebody for a long time. They had to be deprived of their own stuff. They had, for example, in my hometown, they told me that they had to. You have chickens, they make eggs, but you can't eat the eggs. You have to take the eggs to the chief, who is an European guy who is there to rule over you. See, so that's the privation that happens because someone is dominating and oppressing you. And over time, people learn that as a new way of life, and that's the way the mindset is. Believe me, when you talk to an African who is educated but hasn't really thought deeply about what they can and what they can't do, when you say, "Can you do this? See what they've done here. Can we do this?" They go, "No, we can't do it. No, we can't. These people are much clever than us. These people are higher than us." That mindset is very generalized in many countries of Africa.
Okay, thank you very much, Bertrand. James. Sorry. Just repeat what you said, because your microphone was muted from here.
You're mute,
All right.
James.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
All right,
Yes.
awesome. Yeah. For me, I would pick the idea, the thought like from Barry, and I think everyone has actually touched on it, that there is no one single mindset. Because again, we're talking about context. We're talking about where do we come from, which communities do we come from originally, and who was our colonizer. You're not talking about colonization and its impact on us.
Mhm.
That has got ways of shaping the way we see ourselves, the way we see our capabilities, like what are we capable of, or what could we become. And I think, like again, like Barry and both and my brother has said, is that like even when you travel to another country, that shapes you, and it makes a mindset, the way you interpret the world, the way you see your role as well, like your role in the world, it changes, and I think that is what mindset is. And like it has been already mentioned by my colleagues, talking about like colonization, we have had experiences on the African continent that was put like that were was the kind of put on us, that has
Mhm.
changed the way we see ourselves, and then the way we see the outside world. And that actually plays a lot into what a good system of governance looks like for an African country, for example. What do our relationships with the outside world, what should they look like on the African continent? And then when we come to Australia, how do we see ourselves? What's our role? How do we position ourselves so that we can contribute as actively as everyone else? Also, all that, so that we can develop ourselves as people, as communities. Because as we realize, we come here and all of a sudden you're black, and you're like, all right, what does that mean? You know, so that is something that we share.
Absolutely. So I would like you now to look at the things that you would see as positive, and the things that perhaps I don't want to use the word negative, but less positive in the context of us as African Australian, in the African Australian context. When you reflect on the African mindset, what are some of the issues that you see? Because I suppose we need to be able to reflect on what is it that is in us compared to what we see around us, that needs to be questioned and potentially changed or transformed in some ways. What comes to your mind with your experience in Australia about some of the things that needs to be changed or looked at differently in terms of the African mindset?
Can I just jump in, and
Yeah.
my colleague are also going to to comment on this.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of mindset, as an African who, or African Australia, or Australian who is here and maybe wanted to participate, one of the things that I have realized, and because of the mindset that we have as an African, we lack what we call intelligence, or in term of and I mean in term of being confident in saying yes, this is the skill that I have, this is the talent that I have, and you can be able to promote your skill, your talent, and show it confidently. So sometimes we find ourselves in a very awkward situation where our mindset of being oppressed is going to come in, and it doesn't mean we are not intelligent. We are more intelligent. There are a lot of good things. For example, if you look at our children, most of them are very talented kids in terms of whether they sport. For example, we have seen recently what happened with with Peter Ball. We have seen what happened to some other people that are involved in basketball, for example. So that is a talent itself, and we know that some of the people that are uh, uh, I'll give you example. When I see Mustafa is one of my colleagues that I know for long now. So what is the difference between him and somebody sitting in Canberra? He is very intelligent. There's nothing that can hold him back, except maybe we are from minority group. When it comes to the actual voting and some other thing, we run short in terms of voting. But we are more intelligent. We are more capable. I think we need to rethink as a community the way that we can actually build ourselves, the way that we can shape ourselves and build our confidence, and also, to be able to move into the society, into a mainstream society with a confidence and participate as the citizen of this country, and
Okay.
not as a migrant of that come yesterday from refugees background, or whatever.
Yeah. So that confidence that we need to have as a fully, full citizens of Australia, and be able to behave and perform as such. Anybody else wants to ever go?
Yeah, yeah,
Someone who
I agree with that point that Dr. William has just made. I think uh, the confidence level can be like kind of a little bit lacking in many of us,
Mhm.
of our people. But that's not only that. You have also the access to what give you the opportunity to thrive. The access can be access to a job opportunity, can be access to education, access to facilities to make sure that your hidden talent comes out and is seen and exploited at this optimum. So the potential is there. So what basically is the potential? What is probably lacking in many of us is to have the opportunity to have that potential kind of coming out and being exploited to the optimum level,
Mm.
and that's something that is we need to contribute for that to happen, and we need to have outside factors to help it also to come out. We need to open up to opportunities and to grab those opportunities. I think people should have the not to fear to grab opportunities and to go for it. Like Bertrand was saying earlier, that we sometimes think that we can't do things that other people are doing because we lack the confidence or we have the inferiority complex.
Mm.
That probably is a factor, but I think that's not always the case. You will see situations where people are extremely overconfident. You have situation where people feel that or they can't do it because of so many reasons. But again, everything you need to be taking it into context and look at it applied to particular situations. But I think the bottom line is we need to build the confidence in our children, build the confidence in ourselves, to make sure that we don't nothing hold us back, at least that interior kind of thing, because you need to look at it the background as well. We come from a background where we have been generally brought up to be humble. Okay, we try to be humble and we try to hold back, and because that sense of community, that we are together and all that, you as an individual, you should hold back and just make sure that you understand that you're part of the community. You have all those factors that play a part, and we live in a world where individual responsibility, individual talent, individual capabilities are something that really would help you push forward. And that's something that we need to be aware of, and that's something that we need to cultivate to make sure it becomes like kind of a positive factor rather than a negative factor.
Yeah.
Hmm. If I may come in now,
Go ahead.
just one point there. I support the ideas that my brothers are putting forward. I just realized that there is another element that I think holds us back. That is that spirit of being easily satisfied. When I say easily satisfied, means you get here to Australia, for example, you work a job and you find some dollars and you buy a good car and you feel like, oh, well, I've done it. Well, I want Africans to think that no, that's not the end of it. If I can get this car, then I can get something different. I could get something bigger, much bigger than a car. If I go to school, I don't really have to be a nurse. If I'm a nurse today, I don't have to remain a nurse forever. So I want people to find that, that extra something that tells them that there is something better that they could become, because that's the only thing that pushes people to get to the levels that where they would never have thought about before. When you think about how these other people think, these other people, they get money, they have the money here, and then they go, well, this money can go to the bank, but I need to go back to do this. They go back to find something else. They They travel the world to go and understand how the world is working. They go, they spend this money here, that money there, to really find other things, not being satisfied with what you already have here. Find the thing that you don't have, and keep finding and keep really going. You know, someone used here the word thrive. I really want that verb to continue working in the minds of Africans, that we need to continue thriving, like growing higher and higher. That's the spirit, that's the mindset that I really want us to adopt.
And that mindset, I think that mindset is there. A lot of us do have that mindset. Let's not kind of underestimate that, because both in our people who are back in Africa and our people out here, a lot of us do have that spirit of thriving and pushing forward. We do have it. We probably don't see enough of it, but I am sure if you look at it like in terms of percentages, you probably will see we are not very far behind compared to the common people. Because if you take it in terms of entrepreneurship, you have a lot of entrepreneurs back home who are really doing really, really well. People who are really thriving and pushing and all that and trying to get there. And in here as well, let's not forget that we are very young as a community in this country. You know, it's not that many of us, and most of us have been here not very long ago. That's one thing. The other thing, if you take the context of our countries, most of our countries, yes, we are not young as societies or civilizations, but we are young as modern societies, because we've been kind of independent for maximum probably 60 years, or some of them even some of us even less than 60 years. So I'm talking about modern context, but in terms of civilization, we are of course very, very old. We are older than any other civilization. But what I'm saying here is that we probably need to look at it in a way that really that doesn't put us in a position to think that we don't have any of those, because we do. You know, if we didn't, we wouldn't be thriving where we are here, because a lot of us, many of us, are thriving in this country. We're doing extremely well. We shouldn't underestimate that.
Yeah, I certainly agree with what you're saying, Barry. Let me ask a question, a pretty straightforward one. We know that in Africa, for example, there are a lot of issues in our countries where there's not as much development as we'd want to see, and we know why. I mean, we observe our politicians behave in ways that obviously need to be changed. We also know that in our societies there's a degree of mediocrity that we would want to see change. Not everything is bad, but when we look at who we are, where we are compared to other countries and other civilizations, we think we should be able to do better, because we have in us the capacity to do better. But where is that mindset of that is generating all these behaviors coming from? These behaviors that we all do not want to see, but we keep seeing over and over, both in Africa or even sometimes in our own communities here. For example, in terms of how people understand and exercise power, and how people strive for excellence. Fail to strive for excellence. Where are those negative things coming from historically and in present days? James, have you got some ideas on that?
Yeah. So we talked about confidence. We talked about the image of ourselves. But I also wanted us to extend that a little bit and say, what's the image of others, of us? How do others see us? Because at the end of the day, if you're sitting there in the interview room looking for a job, there's somebody looking at you in a particular way. There is somebody looking at you and say, can I trust this person? And so the environment in which we are in does limit. And it does wear down on people's confidence, like very quickly, because like you would know, you come from Africa and you're like, I'm gonna thrive in this place. You go in there, and all of a sudden you realize there is a lot of blocks along the way. And then you start lowering your standards and say, hey, instead of doing that, I'm gonna go for something lower and stay there. And the thing is, the environment actually does want people to stay in those boxes. They want you to find your place. And again, I like and to flip that in the positive way. I've seen people thrive and succeed, do amazing things, The problem is, of course, we're not hearing about that. We're not hearing about people excelling in academia. We're not seeing people who are excelling in medicine, excelling. Like you go to any hospital right now, you'll find an African nurse, an African doctor. You go to universities, we have lecturers and all that, but we're not hearing much of that. But part of it is that where we come from, for example, we have come from, and I don't want us to underestimate the impact of colonialism on our own mindset, on how we see us, and how actually colonization, like the mindset of the other, looking at the African, is still hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. So and that has forced people to take a second place all the time, to second guess themselves. Our leaders, we talked about leaders. Where do they go for treatment when they're sick? You know, they go overseas. When back at high school, for example, when I was growing up, you had to speak English perfectly, and then there was no opposition or no encouragement to even speak your own language properly. You know, so the outside world, something outside, something other than ours, was always better. And I think the idea of confidence kind of comes in when we can realize that, oh no, we can do this stuff, and we don't have to, to stay in those boxes. We have to expand our thinking, our opportunities, and our capabilities.
Absolutely. Anybody else wants to have a go at that?
Yeah, I just want to bring in the idea that a lot of these countries that colonized us still have some level of control over us and our leaders. And I want to say this because when you look at what is happening in different countries of Africa and other countries that are poor and that are under domination, we know that what is happening in Afghanistan right now, what is happening in Myanmar, Burma, and things. All those things tell you that there is some level of control from outside. But then when you look back, you go, why is the outside still controlling us many years after a purported independence? It's because some of us still have that mentality that someone is better, someone outside is better than us, and we give them a chance to use us to dominate, to dominate our lands, our politics, our economies and things. I don't know whether there is a one fix, one thing that could be done to fix the whole thing. I just know that we need a longer conversation, like an ongoing conversation about what we see and why we see that, and why, for example, our countries, our leadership. We say democracy. I don't really believe in the word democracy per se, because I don't see democracy in many places. Even where I am right now, I don't think that is democracy if you look at the real definition of democracy. But why don't we have our own way of leading or doing stuff in a way that doesn't oppress our own people? We don't have to really do what the Americans are doing. We don't have to do what the Europeans are doing. We can do our own way of doing things, which make us, grow together, work together, and maybe avoid being divided against ourselves, where we have one part that is on the side of the colonizer and another side that says, "Oh, we are for the country," and then we are always at fight with each other, continuously.
And that's one thing that you've just said there that is also a problem. We seem to be fighting each other all the time. Where is that coming from?
Yeah, true. And we're fighting. You can see the fighting in the words that people exchange, in the relationship they have between countries, between people, between communities. We might not be shooting at each other, but there is that level of, no, I will find a friend from somewhere else. So someone is here. This is a country. It's not looking for friends from the neighboring country. It's looking for a friend from Europe, a friend from America, and that friend is a big, much better than the one that we have next to us. Just because we have that inferiority complex that somebody here mentioned, we think that having a friend from somewhere else is better than having a friend next door. So that's another something that we could continue to discuss and talk about.
And yeah, and if I could add on to that, like you know, when we look back, like let's say pre-colonial times, we had kingdoms and chiefdoms. The people organized themselves in particular ways. There were ideas about how to elect leaders, who is a leader, and what their role is, and what's the role of the people, what's the role of the queen, for example. They had a lot of organizations that were all different in the different kingdoms. And then all of a sudden, a colonizer comes in, for example, and tries to say, hey, now you have to submit to the queen. Yeah. And if that king or queen said that you have to submit to the Queen of England, let's say, and if that king or queen did not submit, what the colonizers did was actually to even choose their own chiefs from within the kingdom and say, all right, you don't want to work with us, so we're gonna supply this side of your community with with resources, with arms, with all kind of things to dispose the existing system. Where and these are people who have been believing in a system that worked for them really well, and then all of a sudden you realize, whoa, so our king is not as important anymore. Yeah, but the Queen of England is, you know, and if you submit to the monarchy in England, then you are supported. You're given a little bit of support, but on the other hand, you're still not recognized as an equal. You know, you're not recognized even if you're supported by the Queen. You're still not as equal to the Englishman. You see, and that happened in so many kingdoms. And that, I think, even within small kingdoms, it brought this misunderstanding because we couldn't trust anyone anymore. That was one. And then the second bit is the issue of borders. We had boundaries. They were very porous. There were and people, you know, they did cross borders among themselves. When all of a sudden the colonizers came in and put borders, like for example, my community from Equatoria has been, you know, people have been split into the Congo. People are split in the South Sudan into Chad. And this what used to be one big kingdom, and then all of a sudden you're on the other side of the border. You're not us anymore. How can you build understanding between these people that used to be one and now they're in 3 different countries? You know, and then that has grown in. Yeah,
absolutely. Barry, do you want to share your thoughts on the main question I'm asking here?
Absolutely. I think James. Oh, sorry. I think James has touched on a very, very kind of important subject here. Obviously, colonization we still have kind of the hangover from the colonial period. Why? Because it wasn't long ago. You know, like I am always saying that when you take at the scale of a nation, 60 years is not much. 100 years is absolutely not much at the scale of a nation, of a country. Yes, we still have remnants of the colonial impact that is still affecting us. I would love to believe and to start looking at the colonial period as being just an episode in our journey as countries, as communities, just an episode. But to see that it still have an impact, such a deep impact to this day, it means that the wound that was made to our societies was very, very, very deep. Or we are kind of struggling to let go, because unless we found the mechanism of letting go or turning that page and reinventing our future. And this is where I'm going to be joining the idea that Bertrand has just was referring to earlier. Why don't we turn the page and start reinventing our future independently of a lot of the things that have happened that are impacted us negatively? I'm talking mostly about the colonization. We still do have a conscious of our history. We still have a conscious or cultural consciousness. We need to look at how we can use all this and to reinvent our societies, our new societies, because we can't cling on to what our kingdoms used to be, on how we used to live so well between communities. That's already gone, because if you think of it, If everything was perfect at that time, we wouldn't have been defeated. You know, the white man has come to our countries, and in every country that they have come, they were able to dislocate our societies, to impose themselves, just because either they were very strong, they had the power of the gun, or because we had weaknesses in our system that they took advantage of and divided us and destroyed everything we had. We need to look at that and see, okay, all that has happened, let's learn from that, and let's see how we can rebuild ourselves and reinvent ourselves. We don't have to be like the white man. We shouldn't. I think that's where we have actually made a mistake, because in everything that we've been doing for the last 60 years, it's like we're trying to copy either the English or the French. We're trying to be exactly follow on their path, you know. We try to speak like them, like James has said earlier. We try to speak their language better than they do. We try to do everything according to what they have taught us. But we haven't stopped and said, okay, this is their way. Let's look the positive side of what they have brought to us and look at our core values and build something new, you know, without rejecting everything that we have. That's, you know, because at the end of the day, what is development? Development is not about roads only and buildings. It's about people's well-being. You know, how can we reinvent ourselves in a way that we create atmosphere, create conditions that are very good conditions for our people, you know?
But is it all just about the effect of colonization? Isn't there also something that is inherent in us that is leading us to continue to behave the way we do and suffer, or let ourselves suffer the hangover of colonization even after 60 years? I want to play the
No,
devil's.
I like your point there, and I would like to jump on it and say no. I don't think we are worse than anyone else. Everything in our behavior is human. Everything in our behavior, if you put any other people, any other nation in that context, they would have behaved the same way. Because let's not forget, people say that, oh, other countries have gone through civilization, through colonization and everything. But let's put it into context here. No other kind of communities and other people have gone through the trauma and the trauma and the suffering that we have gone through. I'm not trying to victimize ourselves. I am saying that colonization, the way it was applied to us, were the harshest you can imagine. No one has gone through that. We have been enslaved for centuries and centuries. No one has gone through that, you know, and that happened not very long ago, you know. And so we have gone through so much, you know, and absolutely the behavior you have today, I don't think it's something that is inherent to us. In the contrary, we are showing a lot of resilience, because a lot of communities that have been put through the fire and the suffering and the hammering that we have through have completely disappeared, you know. And so I think that I do praise our, whether you call it mindset or you call it whatever, but we do have one thing you can say. We do have, as Africans, as Black people, we do have a sense of resilience, you know, and that resilience is there. And I think that's a strength.
Yeah, I still
think,
wanted to intervene there. Go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of comments here. You know, the colonization that African society has gone through. I think there is something that if we remove ourselves from the mindset that we have been oppressed, and think all you know, in an alternative way to say, okay, the negative experience that we have as a society, an African society, that negative experience can be converted into the positive, you know, positive thinking, positive approach. And I mean, you know, for the African society to be able to say, well, we, a white man came and destroyed the system that we have, the kingdom system that we have. Now we have had them to go back to where they were. So we need to be able to design our system. We can look at the old system. If it was, if the old system was not strong, then we can be able to think about the current generation, how to build the strong system that can empower the society, and for the society to move on to progress in terms of development, in terms of, you know, other progressive things such as, you know, having a useful resources. And James here would agree with me. You know, if you look at South Sudan, is a small country that has been destroyed by the conflict, the tribal
Mm.
conflict, but it is a very rich land. The oil in South Sudan, Australia has not that oil, the oil that we have in South Sudan, for example. But because we don't have system, we are not even benefiting from that oil at the moment. The community is not getting, the oil. I'm sure there are some people that are benefiting, individually, and also other people such as China. But the community itself is still suffering. It's not benefiting from that. But because we have no system we are what is the word, I don't want to say a dysfunctioning society, but uh, I think we need to think about the system again. We need to be able to design and decolonize the system, the Western world, the white man system, and decolonizing into African way of operating.
Now, yeah, before I let James speak, you've used that word there that is quite critical, dysfunctional. And that's a word that comes a lot from the Western sort of thinkers. When they look at Africa, they see us as a dysfunctional continent, dysfunctional people. I don't think they are always wrong. To some level, there is a degree of the dysfunction in our society that we ought to be able to acknowledge. The cause of it, obviously, there are many causes, and root and colonization is one part of it. Barry has mentioned that. But how do we start rebuilding? It looks to me like even 60 years after independence, we're not having those serious conversations that we ought to be able to have in our communities, and that's what is for me one of the biggest problems. Even when you see the political narratives and discourse in our countries, it's all really not deep enough to diagnose what's wrong in the society and reflect sufficiently to look at how we can start that hard work of rebuilding our societies from the destructions and the wounds of colonization, of slavery, and many of these things that have traumatized us from the past. Why aren't we having that sort of conversation, James?
Yeah. No, I really I appreciate the commentaries made earlier, and things like resilience. We do have that resilience, but I also wanted to take back to the idea of, like, because we do need healing, and I think there are so many that they heard through colonization is so deep that sometimes we don't even realize it's there. So for example. When I went home in Uganda to visit families, went to the most expensive restaurant, and the most expensive food there was fried chicken and chips. Yeah, and that's what they suggested for me. Oh, do you want fried chicken and chips? And I was like, no, I just want the local food because that's what I was craving. So there is this thing of placing the foreign on the on the higher higher level. That's one way. The other bit was like there was a person who went to Uganda a few years ago, I think 3 years ago. She has no medical background whatsoever. To open the clinic, and there were lots of young people, like children, who are taken to her for treatment. A lot of them died. She was giving them, I heard, bleach and all other things to drink. But we have doctors right there in Uganda as well. But people thought, that foreign person who just came in has no medical background whatsoever. They trusted their children to be treated by her instead of taking to the local clinic. So what I wanted to say is that the trauma is still there. The trauma is still there, and we need healing. The other bit is that, yes, colonization ended, let's say, 60 years ago, but I would say it has morphed. It has changed. The colonization is different now. Let's say, for example, why is it that we have all that oil and we can't refine it locally? And why is it that it's benefiting the outside world? That to me is still the new type of colonization. And for us to move forward, we need to decolonize.
Okay, now we approaching the end of the show. Unfortunately, things go so fast. We're probably going to take another 15 minutes to sort of look at some avenues to sort of address. We've spent some time to sort of diagnose some of these things that are wrong, or some of these things that actually are real impediment to our self realization, self development as a people. And then we need to look at ways of actually addressing that. Bertrand, I can see you wanting to say something. Maybe you can make your comment, then I'll go into the part where we start to look at some avenues to decolonize the African mindset. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Clyde. Maybe I wanted to actually jump in and really say maybe one point there, that the African mindset is placed somewhere where it's always following. For example, I would say, if you look at the information, for example, we know that we live now in technology-driven information, system. There's too many newspapers, too many television, everything, and every news that comes is saying that the Africans are lower. The Africans are lower, and what we're doing, we're trying to catch up. We can't even respond to that because we don't have as many news outlets as the other people do, and so we are always fighting and responding to criticisms. We never have a time to actually sit down and like what my brother said, that reinvent ourselves. Like say, okay, right here we've gone wrong here, we've gone wrong there. We've had all these people coming in and dictating us what to do. Now that has to stop. We have to start from here and move forward and let our future generations come in a stable system that they will be able to steer toward the development that we really want.
Sure. So we never take time to sit down and look at what has gone wrong and how we can make it right. So let's start as we look at finishing this episode of this show, because let me remind those watching that this is a whole series of a conversation we're going to have on this topic every Friday, if all goes well. And we'll probably have 6-7 discussions. And if there's a need, we can have more, because it's such an important topic for us to discuss. Now, let us look at how we can address some of these things. What I'm hearing from you guys is that, yes, we are just like anybody else. There's nothing different from us in terms of humanity. However, we've gone through a lot of trauma in our history, and 60 years is not enough. We will still need time to heal, but then the colonization has kind of changed just the shape. It really hasn't gone away. It's still there. It's just changed the way it's being practiced, and we are not yet taking sufficient time to look at these serious issues in our societies and address them. So what would you suggest if you were approached and say, give us 2-3 ideas on how we can start decolonizing the African mindset, and more broadly, how we can start rebuilding and reinventing a new type of African mindset? What would you say?
I probably would go first. What I probably would suggest is 2 or 3 things. Yeah. First, I think would be important for us to have a strategy. We need to understand where we stand. We need to understand where we are aspiring to. Build a strategy around everything in order to reinvent ourselves. We need to have a strategy. At the moment, you take the African continent as a whole, and you take every single African country, we don't have a strategy. Everyone else in the world has a strategy around Africa, how to get access to our resources, how to exploit us, how to take away from us. But we don't have a strategy on how to keep what belongs to us and how to develop what belongs to us in a way that is become profitable to our people. We don't have that. And that's a shame. We don't have that, and that's a problem. We have lost the sense of initiative, and we need to work towards regaining that sense of initiative. That's what Bertrand was talking about earlier. That initiative where we are constantly responding and reacting to situation, it has to stop. We need to regain the sense of initiative, and we have to do that. We don't have a strategy around anything. We don't have even a strategy around how other people are talking about us. The mass media can go, anyone in the mass media can go and write anything they want about us. Go into our countries and make kind of reportage, make anything about kind of report on anything on us, and no one would do anything about it. No one would know anything about it. That's a problem. Because at the end of the day, every single country, every single society that you see in the world is a product of marketing. We don't have a strategy around how to market our societies. So much so that we have lost confidence as Africans. We have lost confidence on ourselves because we are just kind of consuming the marketing product that is coming externally, that is showing us in a negative light. So much so that we're failing even to see the positive things that are happening among us. So we need to have that strategy around everything, especially around the sense of marketing. The second thing, we need to build a sense of kind of historical consciousness. We need to understand, and history is everything. Historical consciousness is the cement that holds us together. It's not like building a historical consciousness that put us in a position where we would regret the past, the time of the kingdoms, and say how it was beautiful, or how the white man has the bad thing that they've done to us. No. We need to learn about everything that has happened in the past and build a perspective about our future. That's the second thing. The third thing, then, it's the most important thing, is to have the right people to be our leaders. That's all I would like to say.
Thank you, Barry. Who wants to go next? Solutions now. Solution mode. How do we go about decolonizing our minds and reinventing ourselves?
I'll probably go next, if it is okay, from my colleague. Look, what I'm going to say is it's not far away from what Mustafa has mentioned. I think what I wanted to say, we need to have people with strategic thinkers. So not only being critical thinkers, but we also need the implementers, people who can implement the ideas. We can have the ideas as much as we could, and if we don't implement them, nothing is going to happen. It will remain the whole, the way it is. Dream is a dream. If you don't implement it, it is going to remain there. So we need the implementers, people who can really, drive the ideas, implement the ideas, and for the, in the market, so that our people can see it. Those ideas are in the market. So that's one thing that I wanted to say. The other thing that I wanted to add, well, the past experience, the colonization, we need to be able to reflect on as a community, and we don't need to dwell on it too much. We need to say, well, we know what is happening, we are aware of it, but this is the direction that we are moving to. And that come to the simple thing that we need to be able to remind ourselves and say, we are capable. Our abilities, our talent, we are capable of doing this and that. It is like telling your children at home, who may ask you that, oh, we don't want to eat what you cook as a dad, or what mom cook. We wanted to go to McDonald's, for example, to go and get KFC or McDonald's. So you need to be able to spend time and say, look, this is more healthy. you know what we cook at home here is more healthy in terms of health, compared to what you are saying we need to get outside. And that take a bit of time to be able to convene, and teach the young people. I think that's what we may need to do. We need to start working hard from individual level to the community level, and that's where the change will come. Change, if we want really to make change, we need to start change from an individual level. And if we have a great leaders, for example, like this gentlemen that are here, they are well established themselves. If we have a group of people like that, then the community is in a better shape. But if we don't have people who have established themselves from individual level, then we are going to have a mess as a society. So the mess will not go.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm happy to jump in. I think a lot of the points have actually been raised. I like the idea of projecting our image and controlling the narrative as well, because like my brother, Mustafa said, the news and the image of Africa has been put out like we become consumers of who we are, or the image that is manufactured and given to us. And I think to get out of that, we need to be able to reclaim our stories. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that we're blessed with? Because there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of like massive resources, what we have, and then we want to think about how do we use them, instead of for example, waiting for somebody to come and extract them, or to get cocoa from Ghana, take it to Switzerland and bring it back to Ghana to sell for a lot more money. So we need to look at our resources and think about how do we use them. And I think the third bit is we as Africans, we do need to learn about one another. There is so much to learn about the African continent. I heard there's about 2,000 something languages, and by the way, some of these languages are actually dying away. And I think we need to actually start teaching our young people, the new generation, to speak these languages, because they're actually rich. They contain lots of ideas and the mindset even, because when you learn a language, it's not just words. You're learning a way of thinking, the psyche of that society. And I think we need to invest a lot of resources into maintaining our cultures and languages and our identities, basically.
Yeah.
And if I may, yes, and if I want to, I may come in. I think every point has been mentioned here. I just want to emphasize on the need to reshape our mindset. And when I say reshaping our mindset, I am trying to think about how we could remove the politics out of the development. When I said remove the politics, I know that development is underpinned by the politics in the country, but when we put politics into the development, then we lose it, because a lot of times somebody will build a foundation, but because they're not from my ethnic background or from my political party, when I come in, I don't want to build on that same foundation. I want to destroy that foundation and build a new foundation, so that it can all be mine or credited to my political party or my ethnic background. I think Africans have to remove that, to remove politics into whatever they do, so that we can have a system that can grow, regardless of whoever is in power. And this is what is happening in different countries that are rich. They don't have, like, you don't have McDonald's, for example, dying just because we have changed from Trump to Joe Biden. The business continues, the administration continues, but back home, when the politics die here, everything goes with it. So we need to change that. The other thing that I realized when I was doing one of the things at university is that when you type Google, like in Google, when you say Africa in Google, what you see is the poor villages and the kids that have flies on their noses, and all the bad pictures are all on there. And when you think about who put those pictures on there, it's the person who went to visit somewhere in the village and they saw somebody that made them feel like they needed to take that picture, and they put that on Google. So Africa isn't represented in the media. We need to project the better image of Africa. Another thing that I realized about the image of Africa is that when you check the map of Africa, for example, look at the whole map of Africa, and then compare that to Russia, for example, or compare that to North America. You realize that Africa, in a picture, is too small than Russia. Africa in a picture is too small than North America or South America. This is very wrong, because we know that Africa is very, very big, like 3 times maybe Russia. Why do we have that misrepresentation of Africa in the image itself? That means that the same image that I give to Africa as a small point somewhere on the world map is the same image that they attach to us. We need to project the true image of Africa ourselves. We are skilled enough to do that, but we don't do it because maybe we don't feel motivated to do it, or maybe we don't see the need to do that. I think we need to change that mentality and start representing ourselves as, as who we are, not a small people, but a big people that has the same kind of intellectual capabilities. We have physical capabilities. We have too many talents that we need to really showcase and make the world know that this is happening there. And then our kids. I remember my son is 9 and he was asking me, Dad, can a black person do this? And I said, who said that was not possible? And I had to really go onto Google and find an image of a black person in America who was doing great things. And I said, is this not an American? Yes, but he's black or she's black. What is she doing? Isn't she representing the US? Do you mean that in the US there is no white people that could do this? Maybe there aren't, but this black person is representing the US. So a black person is a person like anybody else. So you see the kids and feel like African is low because that's maybe what they get from different sources. We need to change that image that they have. We need to change that image of Africa and make it as big as it is, or as big as it deserves to be. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. As we get to the end, I think one thing that has come across pretty much most of what you've said in terms of the image of Africa is that obviously we all understand that it is not the best, and there's a need to improve it. And there are people who have skills, and many of us, all of us, are professionals, and we have something that is positive in us that we can sort of bring into the picture to try to change the overall image of Africa. But I think it's Beltran who said it. The skills are there, but the skills are not enough. People have to make a commitment to be able to do something. When you identify a problem, you may have the skills to fix it, but if you don't commit, if you don't invest in fixing it, then it's as if you don't have any skills at all. Even I very much understand the whole image of Africa. In fact, that's the main motivation, the primary motivation that led me to set up this platform from the beginning of the whole thing, Africa Media Australia, almost now 10 years ago. But we have to struggle to even get people to come and say, hey, come and let's talk about some of these good things that you are doing, or some of these things that we are seeing in the community. But people are not even sort of getting that. I mean, not everyone, but you sort of struggle to get people who have the skills, have what it takes to be able to project a more better image of Africa, but the commitment is lacking, and that is something that is very important, that we ought to be able to look at how we can leverage on what we have as resources, skills, experience, and commitment to trying to do more than what we are doing now to address some of these problems. So, gentlemen, before we finish quickly, I just read some of the comments. I want to thank those who have placed comments today. Just to, I'll pick a few because there's quite a few that I can't pretty much read everything. He says, this is a great show, and greetings to all of you African intellectuals. I want to learn about the definition of African mindset and its background in relation to positive and negatives. It says for a long time, African intellectuals were in denial, had not given a thought on how 70 years of colonialism destroyed African economies, politics, and education. It is now that university departments are waking up and are working hard to sensitize Africans on the need to decolonize these sectors of our societies. My question is, how prepared are African government in supporting decolonization? That's a very good question. That perhaps in previous, in next episode we may come back. It looks like our own governments are the main blockade for our own development, rather than being the facilitators of development, but they are the ones who are actually blocking it. Read a few more and a couple more, and then we can end there. It's 10 o'clock. We can't keep on complaining about how an African mindset has been destroyed or traumatized, but we need to start to reclaim our beautiful cultures and add value to our resources instead of selling them semi-raw. Decolonize our university courses, modernize our languages, and insist to use them in international meetings like Chinese, British, Germans, and other peoples do. Again, a very, very insightful comment. Gentlemen, we'll stop here, and I know there's a lot more. I want to thank Kitui Sanet, who made a lot of comments, Matot Benjamin, Ido McCall, what is it? Abu Leila, and all of you who've been watching and commenting. This is the end of this second episode of this series on African mindset. We will be coming back next Friday for more. We'll probably be talking more in terms of our culture, how we can sort of reframe and enrich our cultures to help us to deal with modern day challenges, because we cannot abandon our culture. At the same time, we have to, I suppose, adapt to the realities of today's world and see how our cultures can support us rather than pull us back. So we'll be talking about some of that next week. Thank you for all the guests, Bertrand Abiakare, Mustafa Barry, James Lojogo, and William Abur. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again next Friday to continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, brothers. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you again. Thank you. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
You guys will see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.